What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Texas channel with the voice of college football. We're going to preview the 2023 schedule that was just released today. Before we get to that 23 schedule, let's look back at 2022. Here was the schedule from last season, of course, playing Alabama in the non-conference. That was a big deal. Some opportunities, to beat Texas Tech, to beat Oklahoma State. Alabama was right there. I don't know if people realize how close Texas was to being even maybe a playoff team last season. But you look at the schedule, the road games tripped them up a couple times. Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. They were able to go on the road and beat Kansas State and Kansas, and those games on the road. And really, besides TCU and Alabama, they took care of business at home. So the schedule, it set up pretty well for them last year. Let's look now at 2023. Before we look at the full schedule, let's look at who they play. First of all, outside of the Big 12. So the non-conference games, which we already knew these. We have Rice, we have a road game against Alabama, and Wyoming. So it's very similar to last year. A couple of games that should be easy, and then they'll play Alabama. This time it's in Tuscaloosa, though. That's going to be a tough one. Alabama probably not going to be as good this year as they were last year, and Texas might be better, and Texas almost beat them last season. So, there may be some that say Texas has no chance in that game. I would argue that they've got a shot. It'll be tough, though, on the road, of course. Now, let's take a look at the full schedule week by week. They will open up with Rice. That'll be the first game on September 2nd. And then right there, week 2 on the road at Alabama. Obviously going to be a very tough test. Then Wyoming on September the 16th at home. So they'll play the 3 non-conference games first, and then they will get into Big 12 conference play. So they'll open up with Baylor on the road. Could be a challenging game there. That game will be on September 23rd. Then on September 30th, they play Kansas at home. Kansas was pretty good last year, so that's not one you can just show up and win. Oklahoma, they're on October the 7th. They'll play in Dallas like they always do. And then they get a bye week after that game. So they'll play 6 games and get a bye week right there at the middle point of the season. They will start the second half with the two of the new Big 12 teams, the 2 that are on their schedule, Houston and BYU. So they will not play UCF and they will not play Cincinnati, but they will play Houston and they will play BYU. They'll play Houston on the road. That's going to be a good one there. And then they play BYU at home on October 28th. So they'll get those teams back to back. Then you get into the month of November. Going to be a tough one there against Kansas State. At home, though, that's good news. Of course, that's a tough place to play. And then they'll get TCU, this time on the road. Very tough matchup there. They'll play Iowa State also on the road. And that's bad. Don't sleep on Iowa State in that spot. Back-to-back road games right after TCU. That could be a challenging game. And then Texas Tech to close things out. That'll be on Friday, so the day after Thanksgiving. And that will be a home game for Texas. So, again, you look at this full schedule. That's probably the one negative as far as how the schedule is laid out. It's the TCU Iowa State there, back-to-back road games. Interesting that they will not play Oklahoma State, the team that beat them last year, and they also will not play West Virginia. So 2 teams out of the traditional Big 12 teams, they have been replaced with Houston and BYU. Is that a good trade? Probably. I don't know that. Although Oklahoma State, they lost so much in the portal, that might not have been too tough of a test this year. And then West Virginia, also a winnable game. So it's a pretty even trade, I would say, Houston and BYU for West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Pretty even trade there. So it's basically, as far as difficulty, it's basically the same schedule they had last year. Although you could say, well, look, Alabama this time is on the road. And then in the Big 12, they have 4 true road games: Baylor, Houston, TCU, and Iowa State. But they could have 5 true road games because Oklahoma is a neutral site game. So depending on how that falls as far as home and away. So you're pretty fortunate there just to have 4 road games. The only back-to-backs on the road, again, are TCU and Iowa State, Kansas State at home, Texas Tech at home, BYU at home. So not too bad of a schedule the way it falls. But again, non-conference, it starts there with Alabama. You got to win that game if they're going to really take that next step and potentially be a playoff team. Although, I guess technically they don't have to win that game. If they lose that game, if they're competitive, they could win out and still be in that playoff picture. But it's going to be tough. It'll be tough. The Big 12 is a gauntlet. Again, Baylor on the road, Oklahoma, Houston on the road. Kansas State will be good again. TCU and Iowa State on the road. So getting through the Big 12 without a loss, I think it is going to be tough. So again, if they want to really potentially be in that playoff picture, they're going to probably need to knock off Alabama on the road, which again will be a very tough game. So schedule for Texas here, it's interesting the way it lines up. Again, my takeaways, good news, you got 5 home games, or I should say 4 home games, and then the neutral site game, only 4 true road games in the Big 12. But the road game against Alabama definitely makes this schedule a lot tougher.